And welcome to the Addiction Free Naturally podcast. My name's Graham Hoppett. Today, I'm going to take you through a process which was instrumental in myself overcoming addiction. So there's lots of clues and tips in here. Now, it's not only a powerful tool for overcoming addiction, but once you learn it, you can literally change any area of your life. For me, this is now foundational for everything that I do in my life. So in this session today, I'm going to talk about the old broken model, which is probably why you were stuck, was certainly why I was stuck for so long, not only in addiction, but in my life generally. And then I'm going to show you the formula for literally creating an extraordinary life. Because once you've got rid of addiction, it's like a vacuum. You want something to have new in there. And specifically, we're going to talk about your identity or your subconscious identity. Addiction for most of us is literally like being imprisoned, isn't it? We're imprisoned in our mind. Those obsessive compulsive thoughts and triggers go through our mind constantly, which is the reason we don't stop. But there is a way. There's absolutely a way. I chose to follow the route and I overcome addiction, and so can you. There's a fantastic quote. It's actually one of my favorites by a guy called Maxwell Maltz, who is an American cosmetic surgeon who was the author of the book Psycho-Cybernetics back in the 1960s. He said you can never outperform your own self-image. And what that means is if you're stuck in believing you're an addict, then you're not going to get out. You've got to think differently. You've got to take your thoughts to a different level. Now, what Maxwell Maltz found was he done surgery, plastic surgery on women in particular, and he couldn't understand why, even once they'd successfully gone through the surgery, they still felt ugly. When he realized it was all because of their self-image. They saw themselves as an ugly person. So however beautiful they really looked, didn't change their own perception of themselves. And that is so true of an addict. If you're not achieving whatever you want in your life, then you're working backwards. And, I'm going to present this information from an overall life perspective and then relate it back to addiction for you. But everything you learn here today can literally help you not only overcome addiction, but actually help you create a better life for yourself. You keep getting what you don't want is probably what's happening in your life. You keep being stuck in that sort of same area of addiction or any area in your life. You just can't get to where you want to go. And that's because you're focused on what you are doing instead of who you are being, which is your subconscious identity. Now, I know there's a lot to take in, and I will be repetitive because we learn by repetition. But it's not about doing, which is what we've been taught. It's about who we are being in the moment. And this is the biggest reason why people fail, or why they keep relapsing when they're in addiction, because their identity is of that addicted person. Most of us have been working in the past from a model called the have, do, be. If I had something, I could do something. If I could do, then I could be. So it's like, if I had more money, if I won the lottery, then I could do all the things I want. I could travel. And if I could do that, then I would be really happy. So you're working backwards. If I had more money in my business, then I could advertise my business. If I could advertise my business, then I would be more successful. So the lessons here, as I say, they don't just apply to addiction or recovery of addiction, they apply to every area of your life. And that's what makes this so powerful. So therefore, if you can overcome addiction, then you can certainly create a way better life for yourself as well. So there's lots of questions and answers probably going on in your mind. So the formula for an extraordinary life is the be, do, have model. And what does that mean? It's like, who must I be? What must I do? What inspired action must I take so that I can have whatever it is I want? So who must you be, or what must you do if you really want to be that non-drinker or non-gambler or ex-addict of whatever your addiction is? Who do you need to be? You must focus on your subconscious identity or your self-image, as Maxwell Maltz referred to it as. Back in the 1950s, a model was created by Gregory Bateson called the logical levels. And it was like a pyramid. At the top, you had the environment, which is where you are, what you want, your outcome. Below that was your behavior, then your skills, and then your beliefs and values, and finally your identity. And there's so much we can learn from this, because your environment, what you want, where you are right now, in addiction, for instance, is a direct reflection of your identity. You're trapped effectively in your thoughts, you're trapped in your mind. So if you see yourself as that addictive person, or you see yourself as that fat person, that is exactly why you are that addict or fat person. So right at the top, you've got the environment, which is when, where, or with whom. It's your external circumstances. Your behaviors is like your performance, your actions, or your reactions to things, because we all react to things, and that's coming from your identity ultimately. Below that, we have the skills. It's like the knowledge we have, the competencies that we have. And then below that is our beliefs and values. What you hold true, whether it's right or wrong. What are your beliefs? What are your beliefs around addiction? That is such a powerful question to ask yourself, because I know the beliefs that I originally had around addiction were keeping me trapped. And then the final level is identity. How do you see yourself? Your self-image. It's how you perceive yourself. If you think of yourself as that addict, that loser, that worthless person because you're an addict, that's where you're staying stuck, because your attention is going on that position. So just to recap, so right at the top of the pyramid, you've got your environment, where you are. It's like the when, where, with whom, all your external circumstances. Then you have behavior, which is what you say you would do. The performance, the actions, the reactions. The skills is the how to get it done, the knowledge, the skills, the competencies. And then your beliefs and values, why, what you hold true, whether it's right or wrong. And lastly, the bottom level of the pyramid is your identity. How do you see yourself, your self-image? And actually, there is one more level, which I would call source energy, whatever you want to call it. But this pyramid, and if you watch this as a video on YouTube, so we'll also do it as a video, you will see images, so it might help. Most people start from their environment. It's like they are working from what they're doing as a way of overcoming their addiction or changing their life. I mean, there's some big, well-known gurus out there that's all they teach. They talk about taking massive action. But if you're taking action from a position of weakness because you're not that person in your mind, then that's more often why you keep failing. Where you really have to start from, if you want to make change in your life, is you need to work from your identity. What is the identity of the person that has all these things to be able to change their life? So what's the identity of the person that would have the beliefs, the skills, the behaviors to create what you want in your life? So who do you need to be is the question you need to ask if you want to drop your addiction, whether that be drugs, shopping, gaming, sex, whatever your addiction is. Who do you need to be? Because then you can ask the next level of questions. What beliefs do you need to hold? What skills will you need? How do you need to behave to create what you want, to be that non-drinker, that non-gambler, or whatever it might be for you? So you work up the levels from identity to then beliefs. What beliefs do you need to have? What skills do you need to hold? What behaviors do you need to change to get what you want? You see, most people, when they set goals in any area of their life, they set them, which goals which are inconsistent with their identity. This is really sort of proven at, beginning of the year, people set New Year's resolutions, and evidence shows that, like, within 90 days, most people have dropped them completely. And most people have actually dropped them within a few days because they are setting goals completely going against what their identities, their subconscious identity, tells them about themselves. There's three ways of looking at any goal, whether that's losing weight or overcoming addiction. You've got the outer level, which is you set it from an outcome point of view. It's like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds and then I'll look great. Or sometimes you could set it as a process. I'm going to go to the gym every, say, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and hire the best personal trainer there is. Now, both of these methods are tough to maintain. And a lot of it would depend on willpower because there's no strength in it. You're doing it from a position of weakness. However, you could work from your identity. That's the main thing. So looking at weight loss as an example, I want to lose 20 pounds. That's the environment. That's the outcome you want. So you start eating healthily. That's the behavior you need to commit to. But if it's not in your identity, that's where you drop it. So that's why most goal setting fails, because most people set goals to change a behavior, but they rarely consider the characteristics of their performance. Who do they need to be? When you work from a place of who you need to be, you ask much more powerful questions. When you start being that person, that non-drinker, for instance, in your mind, or that non-gambler or non-gamer, then it's much more powerful because you're creating a new identity. So we fail to reach our goals because at the identity level, we're not that person. And that is a key thing. You've got to become that ex-addict, that non-drinker, that ex-sex addict, that non-drug taker in your mind first. Brian Tracy said, and he's a great American personal development guy, he said the person we believe ourselves to be will always act in a manner consistent with our self-image, which again is supporting Maxwell Maltz's views as well. So whenever you want to create something long-term in your life, and obviously this podcast is all about eradicating addiction from your life, then you've first got to be that person, that ex-addict, that non-addictive person in your identity, in your subconscious identity. I mean, yo-yo dieters are a classic example of how this is worked. You see, they revert to salt. They set that diet without really any idea how to do it, and then they go back to their default setting. Because their default setting is that unhealthy individual, that overeater, that binge eater. And that's why, as I've already mentioned, nearly all New Year's resolutions fail. 90% fail. When you try to change any behavior, whether that is an addictive behavior or giving up smoking or overeating or not watching as much TV, if you're changing a behavior, you're starting at the wrong end of the equation. You have to work from your mind, from your identity. So that's why people fail at losing weight, because the brain's neural pathways are wired in that person to eat unhealthily because they've been doing it for years. So the mind is working on autopilot. I've got a great friend called Glyn, 58-year-old. He's got an amazing body. And for those that are looking at this on YouTube, there's a picture there for you. I mean, he's ripped. He's got the body of a 30-year-old and he's 58. And the reason he's got that is because in his identity, he is that trim and fit person because he does the behaviors. So we're going back to that pyramid. He does the behaviors to keep himself that way. He's capable, he's got the skills of what he needs to do to get the outcomes he wants, which is to be trim and fit. And he has all the beliefs and values that support it about being fit and healthy. So at his core, he has the identity as a trim, fit, and healthy person. The same as you clean your teeth every day, Glenn doesn't need to think about being fit and healthy. It comes automatically. He'll automatically eat healthy food, buy healthy food in the shop, prepare it, go to the gym. It's in his identity. So again, look at the triangle, the pyramid. He would tick all the boxes. He's got the outcome he wants because he does the behaviors he wants. He's got the skills, i.e., he knows what he needs to do, and he's got the beliefs to support it. And that is all driven by his subconscious identity. Whereas the overweight person, all they do is they set the outcome, I want to be fit or lose weight, but they don't do the behaviors. They don't therefore have the skills. They certainly don't have the beliefs, and their identity is of that overweight person, that overeater. And it's exactly the same for overcoming addiction. You need to create that identity of a non-addict in your mind. So therefore, you need to adopt the beliefs that will support that. And that was one of the first things I had to do. I realized, which goes back to the podcast in week 1, I had a number of beliefs, society-based beliefs, that weren't supporting me. So I dropped those beliefs and replaced them with beliefs which were healthy for me and supported my recovery. And I then adopted the skills to help and started doing the behaviors that would get me to my outcome of being addiction free. And I'd done it naturally. So you must be the identity of the outcome that you desire, whether we're talking about becoming an ex-addict, i.e. eradicating addiction from your life, or achieving anything in your life, whether that is career, business, family, love, anything. You have to be that person in your identity. So everything starts with your identity. So why don't people do things, for example, personally or professionally? Why don't people, why don't ask yourself, why don't I get up early? Or why don't I go to the gym? Why don't I eat healthily? Or in a work position, why don't I make those sales calls if I'm a sales professional? Why don't I start that dance class I keep saying I would join? Why don't I stop gaming, gambling, sex addiction, porn, drugs, drink? And the reason people don't do that is they are not that person at their identity. At their identity, they are the person that doesn't do those things. So the person that doesn't get up early or doesn't go to the gym or doesn't make sales calls. Everything is driven by your unconscious identity. It's like context versus content. We can learn lots of things. It's driven by our context. See, people are always trying to change with content. You must change, but you've actually got to change the context. And the context is where you're living from. If you're looking at this on YouTube, again, this image you may have seen many times, but for those that aren't, I'm showing a picture of, imagine an iceberg. An iceberg has just got a tip above the waterline, hasn't it? That's our conscious mind. That equates to 5%, which is our conscious mind. But below the waterline, there's this massive 95%, which is our subconscious mind. And in there are all our beliefs about age, health, wealth, success, and addiction. It's all the behaviors, all our skills, our beliefs, our values. It's housing our self-image, our subconscious identity. That's what's driving us. That's why we clean our teeth in the morning, because we're programmed to clean our teeth. We do it automatically. You don't wake up and think, I'm going to clean my teeth. It happens automatically. Same as driving a car. Once you've learned to drive the car, you don't sort of drive along the road thinking, I'm going to change gear now, or should I change? It happens automatically. That is an example where you have programmed yourself to drive that car automatically. Many a times you'll probably get to an end destination and think, God, how did I get here? I can't remember going past blah, blah, blah. But it's because you're driving automatically, so you can do other things. Because the core activity is happening automatically. So this is the subconscious mind. Below the waterline is where your addiction is housed. So context is your frame of subconscious beliefs. Now, in 1990, the Trump organization, whether you love or hate him, the Trump organization was reportedly $3.4 billion in debt, with Trump himself apparently liable for over 800 million in debt. Now, he was apparently, the story goes, he was walking along the road in New York somewhere, and he saw a beggar on the street, a homeless person, and he thought, he said, blimey, that person is better off than me. And what he meant by that, here's the context. Now, that person had nothing, but Trump was 3.4 billion in debt in his business and 800 million in debt in his personal life. But even though he didn't have the money, he come back. He's now successful, and obviously it's worth lots of money again, billions again, according to the press. So it's all about the context. See, everything that you think and believe about yourself subconsciously, and I use the term subconsciously, unconsciously as interchangeable. Different people use different things, but that is your context. If I were a drinker, that would be part of my context. I'm a drinker. One of my contexts is I used to be a runner. I'm not a runner anymore, but I automatically run. I've done a couple of marathons. With age, I've stopped running now, but does that make sense? So right now, one of the things that I do automatically every day, I actually meditate. I didn't meditate actually as part of my recovery. It's a tool that I learned since, but I can highly recommend meditation as a way of calming the mind and body down. So I'm a meditator. That's part of my context now. Let's look at content. You see, you could tell an alcoholic drinker drinking is bad. You need to stop drinking. Yet that person keeps drinking. Why? It's because it's in their unconscious identity. One of the best footballers ever to come out of the United Kingdom was a guy by the name of George Best. I'm going back to the 60s and 70s. And he had a quote. He said, "I've stopped drinking, but only when I'm asleep." I mean, George Best actually had a liver transplant, but even that blessing, he still couldn't give up drinking and died an alcoholic. So the biggest reasons why people fail is because of their identity. I mean, motivational speakers keep us trapped because they're stuck in the doing. This isn't about action. This is about who we are being. It doesn't matter how many times you do something. If you're not being the kind of person who can do the things, then you're not going to get to your end result. Everything comes down to your unconscious identity. A very wise man once said to me, people don't have business problems. They have personal problems that they take into their business. And it's absolutely true. It's our minds that are controlling us. So we're only, when we're in our career or business, we're looking through the parameters of our mind, and that's what's keeping us trapped and causing problems. Why do you think it is that people go from one failed relationship to another? It's because they are taking themselves from one relationship to another. Nothing has changed. They haven't learned their lessons. They haven't changed. In many cases, they probably blamed the partner before. And that's sadly why you see a great example is women going from one abusive relationship to another, because at their unconscious identity level, they believe that that's what they're worthy of. It's a hard pill to swallow, but everything comes from our mind and our identity and what we believe about ourselves. So the only way to change your business career or to get out of your addiction is to change yourself. The only way to grow your business is to change your subconscious identity, your subconscious paradigm. The only way to get out of addiction is to change your unconscious beliefs about yourself and your identity about yourself, because that is what's driving you 24/7 on autopilot. Look at the being. Who are you being? Because that being is the person doing the doing. And when you change who you are being, you will start to do different actions which would get you a different result. So start living your life in the position of be, do, have, because it is literally transformational. So what is your identity? Ask yourself that. What is your identity? So your unconscious identity is your self-image. Yeah, it's how you perceive yourself to be. And that could be, I'm beautiful or I'm ugly. I'm wealthy, I'm poor, I'm successful, I'm a failure, I'm a winner, I'm a loser, I'm intelligent, I'm stupid. They are all examples of identities. And much of that you learnt as a child. That's the scary thing. Between the ages of 0 and 8, we're literally hypnotized. We take on the beliefs from our parents or primary caregivers, and then we take on the beliefs of people in authority, such as teachers and the such. So we are literally absorbing information. We're indoctrinated as a child to believe certain things, and we're doing it like automatically. And our parents, not our parents' fault per se, because that's all they know. They are just reflecting themselves on you. So our environment is actually indoctrinating us, and that can impact us later on in life. So your unconscious identity as an addict is, I'm an addict. In fact, many people go to the 12-step process, which has helped lots of people. But one of the things where I struggle is it's reinforcing your identity. And therefore, I think you have to at least question that part of the process, because if you keep saying, I'm an addict, you're reinforcing it. So deep down, and I've heard so many addicts say this, say that I'm worthless, I'm a loser, I'm full of guilt and shameful for what I've done. That's their unconscious identity, and that's what we need to shift if we're to get out of addiction. So therefore, you need to change it from like, I'm an addict to I'm a non-drinker, non-gambler, an ex-addict, whatever works for you. And instead of being I'm worthless, you're going to start thinking, I matter, I am enough, I am more than enough. And go from I'm a loser to I'm a winner. So this is about changing what you believe about yourself, because as you do that, you start to increase your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-belief in yourself. Look, so many celebrities, and the list is endless. I'm just picking out a few names. You've been in and out of rehab multiple times. And I pick on celebrities because obviously they're out there in the news, so therefore they are a great example. Matthew Perry from Friends, had a fantastic career, ended up an addict. Lindsay Logan, the same. Kelly Osbourne and Ozzy Osbourne, her father. Now there's an example where she would have experienced addiction in her family setup, and therefore you start to take on the beliefs or the sort of surroundings. So like she was probably more prone to become an addict than many people. Andy Dick, the American comedian, has apparently been in rehab over 20 times, the last report I read. And literally, as I record this today, he's in trouble with the police on something else. So it's like addiction causes chaos in people's lives. And that's why, I urge you to take the steps to sort of start unraveling it, because life on the other side is so much more fun. Addiction is an illusion. So going back to these celebrities, it's like, right, they are an addict and their environment is full of all the triggers, yeah. But then they go to rehab, they get clean, and they get clean because of zero triggers. They're in a different environment, and they've been maybe put on a detox if they were trying to come out of drugs or alcohol or any other addiction. They're going through a process to like get them away. So they feel great. They go back to normal life. They're going back to their old environment, their old triggers, and then they relapse. So, the celebrities we've just talked about, that's why they've been in multiple rehabs, because they haven't changed anything actually within themselves. All they've done is they've gone into like a sacred place for a month or something, but nothing has changed because everything comes down to your identity, your unconscious self-image. So until you change that, you could go into rehab a million times, nothing is going to change. You get clean in the moment, but as soon as you're back in the real world, unless you have changed, nothing is going to change. So again, and you're seeing that in normal life in the terms of people going from one broken relationship to another, or one bad experience to another, because they are taking themselves wherever they go. They're not changing anything internally. So where did we learn all this content? Where did we learn these beliefs? So it's like, what is your content box? Where did you learn it? Because you've got to change it. That's the thing. And the answer is in the pyramid. It's like, what ways of being at the identity level do you need to be to get your outcome of being an ex-gambler or a non-drinker? So who do you need to be? Who do you need to be? Because then that starts to facilitate what beliefs do you need to hold, which then supports what skills you need to learn and what behaviors you need to do. And then that would get you the outcome that you deserve and desire. And everything comes down to your identity, your unconscious self-image. You can't escape it. So you have to work out who you need to be. So that's why the Be Do Have model is life-changing, it's transformational. It's impossible, you see, for someone to say lose X pounds when their self-image is that of an overweight person, or having a loving relationship where their self-image is someone who thinks that they're not lovable or love isn't available, or being a fill in the gaps yourself, guys and girls, a non-drinker, gamer, gambler, or whatever your addiction is, when your self-image is of a drinker or a gamer or a gambler or a porn addict or whatever it might be. You have to change your identity. So why don't people do the things that they say they would do? Whether that's personally or professionally or related to their addiction. And the reason is simple. You're not doing the behaviors that you know you need to do because at the identity level, you're not that person who would do those behaviors. You must be the identity of the outcome that you desire in your life. So if you're not the identity of the outcome that you want, the harsh truth, whether it's losing weight, eradicating addiction, or making more money, is you're never going to get that outcome. You're never going to get it. You have to be the identity of that person to achieve anything you want in life, whether it's eradicating addiction or making more money or having a loving relationship. You attract more of who you are. That's a harsh truth. You attract more of who you are. So you have to change internally. You have to change your unconscious identity. And remember, because your world is being run by the 95% under the watermark. So you need to change your subconscious identity. Going back to Maxwell Maltz, just remind you that self-image, he said, sets the boundaries of individual accomplishments. So you'll never achieve more. You've got to change your internal thermometer. So a great question is, who would I need to be? How would I feel? And what would I do if I already was that ex-addict, that non-drinker, that ex-porn addict? What is it that you want in your life? And then ask yourself that question. Who would I need to be? Who do I need to be? What would I feel? And then what would I do to get the outcome that I want? Whatever you do is only as effective as the being doing the doing. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in that cage forever. And how you can start really doing this is using the Be Do Have model that we've spoken about. Ask yourself, who am I? What is important to me? What actions am I taking? What actions do I need to take to give me the results I want? What are the results I want? So if you ask yourself these questions enough time, you start to get the answers that you want. But the be, do, have model is the answer to your current addictive problems. It will really enable you to transform your life. You have to start aligning from the inside out so that you can create everything that you want in your life. So everything is about working from the inside out, working on yourself, becoming that person. Who you are being is the key. So you must work from the identity level to create change at the unconscious level. So you act your life automatically rather than working from these old programs. I hope this has been useful today. It's obviously just a very, very quick podcast, blog post. This is the real deal. You can literally change your life. You can get out of your addiction. I've named this addiction free naturally for a reason. Everything can be done easily and effortlessly when you put in the work to do it. And the secret is in your mind and how you are using your thoughts. One of my mentors said, the words that you say to yourself and the pictures that you paint in your mind create your reality. And that is absolutely the truth. So my name's Graham Hoppett, the founder of Addiction Free Naturally, and I'm here to help you. So please ask questions, leave comments, and I wish you a fantastic day wherever you are in the world.